time is the most precious thing which a person possesses, more precious than wealth, more precious than even marriage, spouse. Wealth, it comes and goes. Today you lose £1,000, within days you'll gain another £1,000. Today, person divorces, tomorrow the person will marry another person. But time, when it leaves, it never returns back. And a person only realizes after that time has gone. A person only realizes after that time has gone. So time is precious, and the most precious time is when a person is young.
العلم قال الله قال رسوله قال الصحابة هم أولو العرفان ما الدين نصبك للخلاف سفاهة بين الرسول وبين قول فلان.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ولي الأولين والآخرين وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه وخليله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. أيها الأحبة, we continue with our studying and benefiting from this blessed risala entitled حلية الطالب العلم, the adornments and the etiquettes of a student of knowledge, authored by Sheikh al-Allama Bakr ibn Abdullah Abu Zayd rahimahullah rahmatan wasi'ah. And we continue after a break due to the summer activities which were held in this blessed masjid bi'idhnillah, and especially the visit of the mashayikh and the ulama. And today is Tuesday, the 3rd of Safar, 1446 years after the blessed hijrah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam from Mecca to Al-Madinah, corresponding to the 3rd of September 2024. And previously we were reading from the 5th chapter, and that is آداب الطالب في حياته العلمية. آداب الطالب في حياته العلمية, the etiquettes and the manners of a student in his life of knowledge. And we reached point number, I think maybe 35, which is المحافظة على رأس مالك ساعات عمرك, safeguarding your capital, which is the hours of your life. Safeguarding your capital, i.e. the hours of your life. المحافظة على رأس مالك ساعات عمرك. Naam, has everybody got it? And the author rahimullah, he said al-waqta lit-tahsil, that be diligent over your time, safeguard your time, spend all of your time in at-tahsil, meaning gaining and attaining knowledge. He said fakun hilfa amalin la hilfa batalatin wa batar, and be a person who has vowed himself to actions, righteous actions based upon knowledge. And do not be a person who is tied to al-batala. And al-batala meaning laziness and free time, wa batar, and arrogance, meaning somebody who is too arrogant to learn. Wa kun hilsa ma'malin wa la hilsa talahin wa samar, and be a person who is hilsa ma'mal, devoted to productivity, meaning somebody who benefits and produces, and is not somebody who is devoted to talahin. Talahin from allahu, meaning wasting time, entertainment, just enjoying yourself. Was samar, a summer meaning spending evenings with friends in which there is no benefit and nothing except idle speech and gossip. And al-hils ma yudha' ala dhahri al-ibil. Al-hils is what is placed on the saddle of a camel, which is known as a saddle cloth. Now meaning, so he's saying be devoted to benefiting and producing something and being of service to others, as opposed to just enjoyment and wasting time with friends every evening, all evening, etc. فالحفظ على الوقت بالجد والاجتهاد وملازمة الطلب ومثافنة الأشياخ. So he said, preserve your time with studying and trying hard and sticking to knowledge. ومثافنة الأشياخ. And the word أشياخ is the plural of what? Sheikh. So the word sheikh has a number of plurals, amongst them shuyukh and mashayikh and ashiyakh, and all of them are plurals of the word sheikh. And al-muthafana ay al-mujalasa, sitting with the people of knowledge. Wal-ishtighalu bil-ilm, and being preoccupied with knowledge, qira'atan, reading, wa iqra'an, yani you reading for your own self and somebody reading to you, wa mutala'atan, and research, wa tadabburan, and thinking, wa hifdhan wa bahthan, and memorizing and researching, etc. He said, la siyama fi awqati sharh al-shabab, especially in your early years of youth, especially in the early years of your youth. Wa muqtabal al-umar wa ma'din al-afiyah, and the source of your health and well-being. He said, فَاغْتَنِمْ هَذِهِ الْفُرْصَ الْغَالِيَةِ, so utilize this precious or these precious moments, meaning when a person is young. لِتَنَالَ رُتَبَ الْعِلْمِ الْعَالِيَةِ, so you can attain the high levels of knowledge. وَقْتُ جَمْعِ الْقَلْبِ وَاجْتِمَاعُ الْفِكْرِ, a time in which you have focus and enthusiasm. Why? لقلة الشواغل والصوارف عن التزامات الحياة والترأس, because you're not preoccupied with responsibilities, distractions, occupations, the necessities of life and looking after other people and having a place or a status or an authority. ولخفة الظهر والعيال, and again because of a lack of responsibilities and a lack of dependence. So this chapter is firstly regarding utilizing your time, not wasting your time, and especially when you are young. So time is the most precious thing which a person possesses, more precious than wealth, more precious than even marriage, spouse. Wealth, it comes and goes. Today you lose £1,000, within days you'll gain another £1,000. Today, person divorces, tomorrow the person will marry another person. But time, when it leaves, it never returns back. And a person only realizes after that time has gone. A person only realizes after that time has gone. So time is precious, and the most precious time is when a person is young. And this is clear from various ahadith. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said in the hadith of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu an, لن تزوم قدم عبد يوم القيامة حتى يسأل عن أربع, and in a riwayah عن خمس, that the 2 feet of a person will not move on the day of resurrection until he is asked about 4 matters, and in one narration 5 matters. He said, عن عمره فيما أفناه, he will be asked about his age, his years, where he spent it, and then وعن شبابه فيما أبلاه, and he will be asked about his youth and how he spent his youth, and then the other matters. Notice in this hadith, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that 2 feet of a person will not move on Yawm al-Qiyamah until he is questioned about these matters. He said about his age and how he spent it, and about his youth and how he spent it. And a person might say that youth is from your age, youth is from your life. So why did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam specify youth, even though he mentioned life and your years? Because your youth is the most important time in your life. You have most concentration, most focus, most strength, less distractions, less responsibilities, more free time. intelligence, focus. And so youth is, the time when you're young is very important. And it's narrated from Umar radiallahu anh. He said, تفقهوا قبل أن تسودوا. تفقهوا قبل أن تسودوا. تفقهوا meaning seek knowledge, learn. قبل أن تسودوا, before you become people of responsibility and authority and you're the head of a family, etc. تفقهوا قبل أن تسودوا. Learn, meaning whilst you're young, whilst you're free, and you don't have many responsibilities, before تسودوا, before you become people of responsibilities and authority and status. This does not mean that if a person did not learn in his youth, that then he doesn't learn after that. So this isn't an excuse not to learn, but this is an encouragement that if you're young, utilize that time. Otherwise, if a person is young or old, he has to learn. And this narration of Umar ibn Khattab, تَفَقَّهُ قَبْلَ أَن تَسَوَّدُوا. Go wash your face. Those who are writing down, write down. Al-Bukhari added, after this narration, Al-Bukhari added. So Umar radiallahu anhu said, تَفَقَّهُ قَبْلَ أَن تَسَوَّدُوا. Learn before you become people of responsibility and authority and status. Al-Bukhari said in his Sahih, وَبَعْدَ أَن تَسَوَّدُوا. And even after you have become mature and people of responsibility and authority. He said, فَإِنَّ أَصْحَابَ النَّبِيِّ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ تَعَلَّمُوا فِي كِبَرِ سِنِّهِمْ. Because the companions of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they learnt and they were old in age. And this is in his Sahih Bukhari, in the book of Al-Iman. So the majority of the Sahaba, many of them entered into Islam and they were older in age. Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, he was 2 years younger than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Revelation came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam at 40, which means Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu accepted Islam when he was 38. And he began learning when he was 38, 39, 40. And like this, many amongst the Sahaba. So, old age or responsibility and dependence is not an excuse, but tabi'atul bashar, the nature which Allah has created us upon, is there are distractions, there are occupations, there are worries, there are anxieties that a person has to deal with. And also, ayyuhal ikhwa, whilst you're young, you have to accustom yourself to working hard. Whilst you are young, you have to accustom yourself to working hard, always working hard, always producing. A person who accustoms himself to working hard when he is young, then later on, he'll not be able to become lazy. It's not possible. You see people like this. Even in dunya-related matters, even some of the brothers in the masjid, those who were, when they were young, they were always working. They started working at a young age. Even if they stop working, they can't sit at home. They have to be doing something. In fact, retirement might come to them and they still cannot sit at home. They have to be doing something. Why? Because whilst they were young, they trained themselves to always be working hard. The problem is now that with all the distractions around us, it makes us used to being lazy. So spending hours in front of a PlayStation, spending hours on a phone, spending hours on social media, spending hours under a blanket watching something, and a person is 19, 20, 25, 30, and he's still watching cartoons and playing games, and so he's become accustomed to being lazy. That person will not be able to work hard. But if you're young and you become accustomed to working hard, you'll never become lazy, and you don't enjoy free time. You have to be doing or benefiting. For some people, subhanallah, COVID was a complete blessing because they could sit at home and do nothing. For other people, and brothers from within the masjid, that free time in COVID was like a punishment to them. They were bored at home. They didn't know what to do at home. They were getting annoyed with themselves because they're not used to doing nothing at home. So, whilst you're young, utilize yourself and custom yourself to working hard. The author said, وَإِيَّاكَ وَتَأْمِيرَ التَّسْوِيفِ فِي نَفْسِكَ. And be aware of this disease called التسويف. And التسويف, it means سوف أفعل وسوف أعمل. That I will do, I shall do. Meaning procrastinating, delaying. When I retire, after I'm married, after I graduate, once I perform Hajj, I will do, I will memorize, I'll stop praying. And as the Salaf used to say, التسويف من جنود إبليس. التسويف من جنود إبليس. That delaying and procrastinating is from the soldiers of Iblis. So there's a difference between al-ajaz and al-kasal. Al-ajaz is when a person doesn't have the ability to do something, meaning it's a weakness in a person's body. He becomes old, his memory becomes weak. Al-ajaz, a person is forgiven for that. Al-kasal is a weakness in a person's determination, weakness in a person's ambition, his himma. And we spoke previously about the importance of ulul himma, having a high ambition and a strong determination. And the author, he mentions various verses of poetry, amongst them saying of Abu Tahan al-Qayni, who said, حنتني حانيات الدهر حتى كأني خاتل أدنو لصيدي قصير الخطو يحسب من رآني ولست مقيدا أني بقيدي. He said, حنتني حانيات الدهر حتى. The years of life, they made me bend down. Yani an old person, when an old person walks, if he's got a walking stick, how does he walk? His back is bent. So time has done this to a person. Old age has done this to a person. He's walking and he's not able to stand straight. He has to walk and he is bending over. He said, كَأَنِّي خَاتِلٌ أَدْنُ لِسَيْدِي. He said, it's as if I'm a hunter who is approaching the animal he is hunting. A hunter with an arrow, when he's very close to the animal, what does he do? He bends down. He crouches. He walks very, very slowly because he does not want to alert the animal. So this person of old age who cannot straighten his back because of old age and he's walking with a bent back, he's likening himself to a hunter who is very close to the animal and he's walking very slowly, small steps, crouching down. He said, قصير الخطو يحسب من رآني ولست مقيدا أني بقيدي. And I'm taking very small steps, like a hunter does. And the one who sees me thinks I have been tied down and I have not been tied down. The point is, in this verse of poetry, that what does old age do to a person? It weakens a person. So much so that he cannot even straighten his back and he walks slowly and his back is bent. And then he mentions another verse of poetry. The poet said, مع الثمانين عاث الضعف في جسدي. That with 80, meaning 80 years old, weakness, it overtook my body. وساءني ضعف رجلي واضطراب يدي. And it hurt me how weak my hand became, or how weak my leg became, and how much my hand would shake. إذا كتبت فخطي خط مضطرب. When I write, my handwriting is like the handwriting of a person whose hand is shaking, due to old age. كخط مرتعش الكفين مرتعدي. Like the hand of a person whose hand is shaking. فأعجب لضعف يدي عن حملها قلما. He said, I am amazed and astonished how unable I am to carry a pen. من بعد حطم القناة في لبة الأسد. After a time when I was able to shoot arrows at the throat of a lion, meaning I could hunt and fight and had strength, and I was shooting arrows And now my hand is so weak I cannot even pick up a pen. فَقُلْ لِمَنْ يَتَمَنَّى طُولَ مُدَّتِهِ. So say to the person who hopes and desires to live a long, long life, هَذِهِ عَوَاقِبُ طُولُ الْعُمَرِ وَالْمُدَدِ. That these are the effects, or these are the consequences of living for a long time. The author intends by this that the sunnah which Allah subhanahu has created people upon is that whilst you're young, you have strength and focus, energy and enthusiasm. And as a person gets older, then of course he becomes weak. And subhanallah, knowledge is something which preserves a person's youth, even after he has become old. And you see this. It's known by many of the ulama, some of them who have visited us, that they might be 75, 80, 85, 90, very sharp, always reading. Memorization is very strong. Physically they seem very strong. Why? Because Allah preserved them through the Quran and through fiqh and through hadith, and always being in a state of learning. So this is the importance of not delaying, utilizing when you're young, seeking knowledge, taking time out, going to sit with the ulama, etc. And then the next etiquette, he said, ijmamun nafs. Ijmamun nafs means allowing yourself to relax every now and again. And so it's appropriate that the author mentions this after mentioning the importance of working hard in seeking knowledge, especially when you are young. That even this has to be in balance. And you have to have times of ijmamun nafs, meaning periods of relaxation. He said, خُذْ مِنْ وَقْتِكَ سُوَيْعَاتٍ تَجُمُّ بِهَا نَفْسَكَ مِنْ فِي رِيَاضِ الْعِلْمِ مِنْ كُتُبِ الْمُحَاضَرَاتِ الثِّقَافَ الْعَامَةِ. He said that take some time out, take hours, a few hours out, in which you allow yourself to relax from always seeking knowledge. Why? فَإِنَّ الْقُلُوبَ يُرَوَّحُ عَنْهَا سَاعَ فَسَاعَ. Because hearts, minds also require times and hours to relax. And there are clear evidences for this from the hadith of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The greatest of them is the hadith of Salman al-Farsi radiyallahu anh. What did Salman al-Farsi radiyallahu anhu say? Now we've mentioned this previously, when he met with Abu Darda, and Darda was complaining about Abu Darda and how he does not desire her, and he doesn't sleep, he stays all night awake praying salah, he doesn't eat food, he's always fasting, he has no desire for any relations. So what did Salman al-Farsi say to Abu Darda radiyallahu anhu? Who remembers? Anybody? Before that, inna li rabbika alayka haqqa wa li ahlika alayka haqqa wa li nafsika alayka haqqa fa'ti kulli dhi haqqin haqqa. He said, verily your Lord has a right upon you, and your own self, your own well-being, your nafs, your mental health well-being, your physical well-being has a right upon you, and your family has a right upon you. i'ti kulli dhi haqqin haqqa. So give everything which has a right upon you, give it its due right. And as I mentioned the story, when he came to Darda, he saw Darda radiyallahu anha looking tired and uninterested. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had akha bayna Salman wa Abu Darda. He had made the pair of brotherhood between Abu Darda and Salman. And so Salman would visit him afterwards. So when he saw Darda looking ill and the way she was looking, he said, what's wrong with you? He said, laysa li akhika haja. That your brother, meaning Abu Darda, has no need of me, no interest in me. So then he entered the house and Abu Darda was there, and Abu Darda offered him food. And Abu Darda said to Salman, Kul fa inni sa'im, that you eat because I'm fasting. Salman said to him, I will not eat until you eat. It was a nafil fast, so he told him to break his fast. So they both ate. And then the night time came, and Abu Darda said to Salman, go to sleep. I'm going to stay away and I'm going to pray Qiyamul Layl. Salman radiallahu anhu said, I will not sleep until you also sleep. So they both went to sleep. After a while, Salman noticed Abu Darda getting up. He said to him, Nam, go back to sleep. So then Abu Darda slept again. Then towards the end of the night, then Salman said to him, now get up, let us both pray. So then they both prayed Qiyamul Layl. Then the next morning, Salman radiallahu anhu said to him, Inna li rabbika alayka haqqa, wa li ahlika alayka haqqa, wa li nafsika alayka haqqa, fa'ati kulla dhi haqqin haqqa. Verily your Lord has a right upon you, meaning ibadah, deen, learning, and your own mental health and your own self has a right upon you, and your family have a right upon you, so fulfill the rights of those who have a right upon you. This then was transmitted to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this incident. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Sadaqa Salman. Salman spoke the truth. So even though we have to busy ourselves with knowledge, but also we have a right to relax, and our family also has a right to relax. Also there is a narration in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu an. After he had passed away, his students, his companions, they said to him that give us reminders all the time. And the narration is, Kana ibn Mas'ud yudhakkiruna fi kulli yawmi khamis. That his companions, his students said, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu an, he would give us a reminder, a maw'idah every Thursday, once a week. Once a week every Thursday, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud would give a maw'idah, a reminder to his companions and his students. They said, Ya Abu Abdurrahman, O Abu Abdurrahman, la wadattu law dhakkartana kulla yawm. That we want a reminder every single day. We want a maw'idah from you every single day. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud replied, Ama yamna'uni min dhalika anni akrahu an umillakum. That the only thing which prevents me from giving you a reminder every single day is because I don't want to overburden you, so you become bored. وَإِنِّي أَتَخَوَّلُكُمْ بِالْمَوْعِظَةِ كَمَا كَانَ النَّبِيُّ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ يَتَخَوَّلُنَا بِالْمَوْعِظَةِ. And so I give you a maw'idah periodically, once a week. Just as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to give us a maw'idah periodically, meaning he never used to overburden people. It wasn't, don't think that 24/7 the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was giving all of his companions maw'idah. It was never like this. It was every now and again. Why? Ibn Mas'ud said, مَخَافَةَ السَّآمَةَ عَلَيْنَا. Because he feared boredom upon us. If a person hears a reminder every day, all the time, naturally a person becomes bored, a person becomes overwhelmed, a person becomes burdened with it. And so the Prophet ﷺ was periodic with the maw'idah and the admonishments which he gave. Some of the ulama mention that there's a difference between at-ta'allum wal-maw'idah. So when it comes to lessons and learning, then this can be daily. But when it comes to general reminders and admonishments and talks and speeches, then it should be something which is periodic. The author mentions the statement of Amir al-Mu'minin Ali ibn Abi Talib, who said, أَجِمُّوا هَذِهِ الْقُلُوبِ وَابْتَغُوا لَهَا طَرَائِفَ الْحِكْمَةِ فَإِنَّهَا تَمَلُّ كَمَا تَمَلُّ الْأَبْدَانِ. He said, allow these hearts, these minds, allow them to relax. وَابْتَغُوا لَهَا طَرَائِفَ الْحِكْمَةِ. And allow them to read wisdom, poetry, general knowledge, relaxation. Why? Because they become tired and bored, as the body can also become tired and bored. Just as the body requires sleep and relaxation and some form of exercise, then also minds and hearts also require time for relaxation. And this is why, and Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said, you'll notice even nawafil, salawatul nafila, we're not allowed to pray them all the time, any time in the day. There are certain times in the day where it is makruh to pray salah, but it's makruh to pray it. Like the 3 forbidden times, whilst the sun is rising and whilst the sun is at its zenith and before al-maghrib. Makruh to pray salah even though it is salah. Perhaps one of the hikmah behind it, there's much hikmah, one of the wisdoms behind it is that it allows a person time to relax. This is why it's not allowed for a person to continuously fast a day after another day after another day, because the body requires nourishment and relaxation. And the author mentions this is why the practice among students is, and schools and institutions is, holidays. So you have 2 holidays or 2 days in a week in which there is no study, and there are complete holidays. And Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah mentions from his Shaykh Abdurrahman ibn Nasir Sa'di rahimahullah that he would give them a break from their lessons every Wednesday and every Friday. Every Wednesday and Friday there will be no lessons for his students, so they can relax and they can take some time out. And every Wednesday and Friday, because he did not want 2 days of no learning, 2 consecutive days of no learning. So he used to separate them. So after every 2 or 3 days, there is a day of relaxation. Then after this, the next adab, he said, قراءة التصحيح والضبط. That also from the effective practices during your life of knowledge is reading books, but not for the sake of memorization and for the sake of learning, but reading books to a sheikh or a teacher to correct your reading and for precision in reading. He said, احرص على قراءة التصحيح والضبط على شيخ متقن. That also spend some time in reading books, but reading books for the sake of correcting your reading and your precision upon a sheikh who is well versed, mutqin, proficient. And of course, finding a sheikh who is mutqin, it depends upon the time and the environment and your level and his level. And if you're in a country of the non-Muslims, then a person does with that which he has. And he said that this is from the practices of many of the ulama, that they would read books, perhaps volumes, not for the sake of learning or for the sake of tafaqquh and hifth, but for tashih al-qara'a. He gave examples. He said, Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar قرأ صحيح البخاري في 10 مجالس كل مجلس 10 ساعات. That Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar, he read the whole of Sahih al-Bukhari in 10 sittings. And each sitting was 10 hours, but reading quickly. And he read Sahih Muslim in 4 sittings over 2 days. And each day from morning to dhuhr. And he read Sunan ibn Majah in 4 sittings. ومعجم الطبراني in 1 sitting between dhuhr and asr. And Fayruzabadi in Dimashq, he read Sahih Muslim within 3 days. And he gave various examples of this. But the point is that this is not reading a book for memorization and learning, because this is not how learning is done. Now we said that learning is done through a tadarruj, through gradual steps. And Shihabuddin al-Zuhri rahimullah, he said, ما كان الرفق في شيء إلا زانه. That whenever gentleness is found in something, it makes it beautiful. He said, وَالرِّفْقُ فِي الْعِلْمِ التَّدَرُّجِ. And gentleness in knowledge is gradual learning. So when it comes to learning and memorization, then it's gradual over time. But this is from the angle of, so you are able to read Arabic proficiently. And then after this, he mentioned Jard al-Mutawwalat. Mutawwalat are books which have volumes. We have mukhtasarat and we have mutawwalat. So mukhtasarat are the mutun or the usul, books which are concise and to the point, like the mutun of aqidah, like the mutun of fiqh, like the matan or the risala which we are reading. Then you have mutawwalat. Mutawwalat are the books, the encyclopedias, the volumes, and the references. Fathul Bari, Sahih Muslim, Al-Majmu' by An-Nawawi, Al-Umm by Ash-Shafi'i, Al-Mughni by Ibn Qudama Al-Maqdisi, Jami' Ahkam Al-Quran by Al-Qurtubi, and other books like this, Tafsir Ibn Jarir Al-Tabari, Musnad Imam Ahmad, Fatawa Ibn Taymiyyah, 30-odd volumes. So these are called mutawwalat. And the author mentions that it is also important for a person that he does not stick to only the mukhtasarat and the mutun. There has to be a time where he moves on from the mukhtasarat. Otherwise, when will he look into the masail and the depths of knowledge which are contained in the mutawwalat? They are not contained in the mukhtasarat, the mutun and the usul. So there has to come a time when a person moves on from them and he starts looking into the more detailed books which are many more volumes. Of course, as the ulama mentioned, this isn't for a person who is at the beginning of seeking knowledge. So whilst you're at the beginning, you try to study and memorize the usul and the mukhtasarat. And then as a person progresses gradually, then he can start looking into the mutawwalat as we have mentioned. At the same time, it's mentioned regarding some of the ulama, and Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, he mentions from Shaykh Abu Battin. And Shaykh Abu Battin min fuqaha Najd, min a'immat al-da'wah, well-known faqih and mufti of Najd. Naam, after the time of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah. So he's from the who are known as a'immat al-da'wah. And they say that he never moved on from Rawd al-Murbi', which is the explanation of Zad al-Mustaqni. And it's about 6 volumes. And Rawd al-Murbi' is considered to be still at the beginner level, or just after the beginner level. And he said his fiqh was based upon this. He never moved on from this, even though he was known as the mufti of Najd and the faqih of Najd. But he would repeat it again and again and again, and memorizing it, reading it, studying it, going over the masail. So it's not a condition that a person has to go through the mutawwalat, but at least that should be a person's ambition, that he moves on from the mukhtasarat. And then the final adab that we will cover today is husn al-su'al, that asking questions in a matter which is befitting. Good questions, beneficial questions, and questions with adab. He said, التزم أدب المباحثة من حسن سؤالي فالاستمتاع أو فالاستماع فصحة الفهم والجواب or للجواب. He said that when you're researching and when you're asking, then the first adab is حسن سؤال. You ask properly. Secondly, الاستماع. When you listen to the answer, listen attentively. فصحة الفهم للجواب. And then try to understand the answer which is being given to your question. And he said, إياك, and be very careful of this su'al adab, and that is that if an answer is given to you by one of the mashayikh, you then say, لكن Shaykh Fulan قال. However, this Shaykh said this, and this Shaykh said this. So this is considered to be su'al adab, and subhanallah, is prevalent amongst many students. Because what this does is it causes problems between the mashayikh. It causes problems between the ulama. And you did not come to hit this person's fatwa against that person's fatwa and make them compete against each other. You came to learn. So you should ask, "O our shaykh, what is the ruling of this and this?" And then if he gives you the evidences and you're convinced with it, you take it. And if you need to clarify the fatwa of another person, you don't say, "But what about Shaykh so-and-so? And what about the fatwa of Shaykh so-and-so? And how do you answer that?" But you can say, "In qala qa'ilun," that if a person says X, Y, Z, how do we understand it? If a person gave this answer, or if a person gave this fatwa, then how would we reconcile it? Now, so this is the correct adab. And Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah, he summarizes the adab of asking questions. He said, firstly, in how you word your question. Meaning before you ask your question to your shaykh, you say, "Ahsan Allahu ilayk." You make a dua for your shaykh. "Ahsan Allah ilayk, hafidhakallah, waffaqakallah." May Allah preserve you. May Allah show you goodness. What is the answer to this and this? What is the ruling of this and this? What is the evidence of such and such? So before you ask a question, you make a dua for the teacher or the shaykh by saying, "Ahsan Allahu ilaykum," or "Hafidhakumullah," or "Waffaqakumullah," and other such ad'iyah. After this, you ask questions which are questions of benefit. Yani not questions for the sake of argumentation, or as if it's an academic exercise. You ask a question in order to clarify something which you need. And this is why the ulama mention that the questions of the Sahaba to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam were very few. The questions of the Sahaba to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam were very, very few. Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would clarify their deen, and they would take it and they would act upon it. They only ever asked if they needed something to be clarified. And they never would ask for as if it's an academic exercise. So you ask for the sake of benefit. And Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he said, إِذَا جَلَسْتَ إِلَىٰ عَالِمٍ فَسَلْ تَفَقُّهًا لَا تَعَنُّتًا. That if you sit in front of a scholar, فَسَلْ تَفَقُّهًا, ask in order to gain understanding. لَا تَعَنُّتًا, don't ask just for the sake of delving into issues or for no real benefit, or like I said, as if it's just an academic exercise. No, ask in order to learn and seek knowledge. So this is the second adab. The third adab is husnul istima'. That when the shaykh gives an answer, listen to the answer. Don't ask a question, then you're playing with your phone, you're talking to this one, you're turning around. Put all of your attention to the answer which the shaykh has given. The fourth adab is sihhatul fahm, that understand the question he is giving. And there's no aib, there's no embarrassment in saying, sorry shaykh, I did not understand. Sorry shaykh, could you give an example? Could you clarify a little further? Because you've only asked in order to get clarification. So there's no embarrassment in a person asking for further clarification or an example or something similar to this. So these are the adab which he mentions. You could summarize them as being three: husnul su'al, wa husnul istima', wa husnul fahm. Naam. Husnul su'al, asking the question properly by making a dua with gentle words and a question which requires clarification or of benefit and understanding. Husnul istima', and then listening properly. Then husnul fahm, and then understanding properly. Trying to understand it, and if you don't understand it, not being embarrassed to ask for a clarification. And Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he summarizes the 6 stages of knowledge. He said in Miftah Dar al-Sa'ada, he said, وَلِلْعِلْمِ سِتُّ مَرَاتِبٍ. There are 6 levels of knowledge. It's in your book, so you don't need to write. He said, husnul su'al, asking good questions. Husnul insati wal istima', and then being silent and attentive in listening to the answer. Husnul fahm, understanding it properly. Al-hifz, memorizing it. At-ta'lim, teaching it. And then thamaratuhu al-amal, and then the fruits of that knowledge, which is acting upon that knowledge. Asking good questions, listening attentively, understanding the answer, memorize the knowledge, teach the knowledge, and then the fruits of all of that are the actions which a person does. We'll suffice with that for this lesson until Thursday, inshaAllah. هذا والله أعلم بالله توفيق وصلى الله على نبينا وسلم وجزاكم الله خير.